NBA players that everyone forgot about. With so many players in the NBA, it can be hard to keep track of all of them. And with players improving into stars, stars leveling up to all-stars, fantastic performances can sometimes make us forget about other players. But there are players who have continuously been great, and people still forget about them. Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony led a spectacular career. You'll often hear him referred to as a walking bucket, due to the fact that he can so easily score in a number of ways, as long as he gets the ball in his hands. Anthony was a prolific scorer, and just a fantastic player over the course of his career. He started out with the Denver Nuggets. After many years there, he had moved to the New York Knicks. Anthony never quite got the extra pieces around him in order to compete for a championship. Though he had many playoff appearances, he never once made it to the finals. His next two stops were with the Oklahoma City Thunder and then the Houston Rockets. In both places, he teamed up with some terrific stars, in hopes to have huge playoff and championship success. With the Thunder, it was a failed experiment. With the Rockets, it seemed to be a lack of chemistry. Anthony left the Rockets mid-season and kind of just floated around in NBA purgatory. He was a bit long in the tooth for an NBA player, and many teams didn't want to take a chance on him. Rumors circulated about him not being able to accept certain rules that teams had in mind for him. Anthony stressed he just wanted to play basketball and to win. People eventually stopped talking about him, and he wasn't to be found on any NBA roster. It looked as if the phenomenal career of Anthony had come to an untimely end. Not with a championship or somewhat successful playoff run, or even finishing a full season, just cut off. And people forgot about Anthony until the Portland Trailblazers added him to their roster to give them some much needed extra scoring. The rumors about Anthony being too old and unable to play in the NBA continued, but for any who have watched him with Portland, they know that's untrue. He has had a bit of a resurgence. For anyone who forgot about Anthony or thought he couldn't be a helpful player on an NBA roster, they were sorely mistaken, as Anthony contributed in a big way to Portland's scrapping and scraping, and managing to climb back into the playoffs after an injury-ridden roster had a rough start. Stephen Curry and KLAY Thompson. Here, we have a 2-for-1 special, the Splash Brothers, Stephen Curry and KLAY Thompson of the Golden State Warriors. Not too long ago, these two were the most fearsome backcourt in the NBA, the best combination of guards on any team, competing for championships year in and year out. A unique series of events then happened. When competing against the Toronto Raptors in the finals in 2019, Kevin Durant came back from an injury too soon and re-injured himself badly. There was speculation that he may want to leave the Warriors after that season anyway, but after his team suggested to him to come back from injury too soon, he was definitely ready to leave. Thompson also injured himself badly in the finals. His injury is going to take much time to recover from. The Warriors ultimately lost that finals, and moved into the next season without Durant, without Andre Iguodala, and with Thompson recovering. Curry was still available to play, and Draymond Green was still there, but the Warriors looked like a shell of their former selves. And to top it off, Curry broke his hand during the season, missing action for 5 months. The Warriors quickly slid down the slope to uncertainty and irrelevance. Their record was abysmal. They became one of the worst teams in the league. The pandemic struck the world, put the NBA on timeout. Much time passed before the NBA put together the restart in the bubble in Orlando. Of course, not all teams were invited. Only teams that were competing for a playoff spot went to Orlando, leaving the Warriors to stay in the Golden State. With so much player movement and so many exciting storylines, new duos like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, teams on the rise like the Celtics, Mavericks, and Heat, people forgot about the Warriors and their dynamic duo of Curry and Thompson. It's been so long since we've seen either of them play, let alone seeing the two of them play together. The way the season has been progressing, they keep getting pushed further and further out of our minds. But they'll be back, and people will soon remember how lethal they are together. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis Antetokounmpo was another all-star that people started to forget about during the NBA restart. Amazingly, the Milwaukee Bucks have the best record in the NBA. Led by Giannis, that makes him a huge focal point. With the Eastern Conference seeming to be somewhat weaker than the West, many people expected the Bucks to be the best in the East. Though they have been incredible, it has been in the realm of what everyone's expectations were for them. And as so many are prisoners of the moment and always looking for the newest flavor, people started to forget about Giannis and his greatness. Because of course, LeBron James moved to a new level of greatness, leading the league in assists, looking like a quarterback, sending dimes to his new teammate Anthony Davis. He is making Davis look like his all-pro tight end. Davis has unlocked a new level in his game, finally able to play with a star like LeBron. The Lakers have shone brightly. The Clippers added both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and with those stars comes a loaded roster. The best team in LA isn't even certain nowadays. The Rockets added Russell Westbrook and went full super small ball, shocking the league with their undersized crew that still gets it done. Chris Paul has led the Thunder to tremendous levels that no one expected. Luka Doncic has excelled beyond what everyone expected. Rookie sensations Ja Morant and Zion Williamson have impressed in their time on the court. And this is all out west. Everyone is so fixated on the west, they forgot about the east. They forgot about what came from way east, farther east than anywhere in the United States, the Greek Freak. Giannis won't long be forgotten, not once he starts to make other stars look silly for trying to guard him. J.R. Smith. It wasn't all that long ago that J.R. Smith was playing with LeBron James in Cleveland, competing for championships. They of course even won one together. LeBron left for the Lakers, and JR was stranded in Cleveland. There was much fighting amongst the team about the direction they were headed, team chemistry, and more. JR eventually got his wish, to leave the Cavaliers. The last time he had played in the NBA was in the early part of the 2018-2019 season. After only 11 games played that year, JR was done, and he wasn't picked up by any teams for the remainder of that year. Even to start the 2019-2020 season, no one had picked him up. JR was a free agent with a lot of free time. It appeared he might not be done with his NBA career, but it wasn't even much of a topic. Not many people mentioned his name anymore. He was all but forgotten. The Lakers didn't forget about him though. His old buddy LeBron may have had something to do with getting him picked up by LA. But people need to remember, when J.R. Smith is on his game, he is an excellent defender and can make a contested three from anywhere you want him to. And what is it that the Lakers were needing? Shooting and defense. And that's what JR can bring. It'll take him time to get back in rhythm, but people shouldn't keep him as a forgotten player in their minds. Once he gets going, he launches fire from all spots on the court. JR is a career 37% three-point shooter. If people don't take his game seriously, he could do some real damage to opponents. It won't be much longer until people remember this guy and his game. Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin was a household name for a while. Lend that to his explosive in-game dunks, jumping over cars to win the dunk contest, and playing for a huge market in LA. Blake has even appeared in Broad City, showing off his acting chops. His Clippers were consistently in the playoffs, and with the likes of Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan by his side, they were potential championship teams each year. Unfortunately, they always fell a bit short. Slam dunk champ, TV appearances, constant playoff fixture, he was in your face all the time. You couldn't not know him. And then he got traded to the smaller market Detroit Pistons. Blake continued to ball, and the Pistons made the playoffs, only to meet a first-round exit handed to them courtesy of the Bucks. In the 2019-2020 season, longtime Piston Andre Drummond was traded to the Cavaliers. Reggie Jackson was moved to Blake's old Clippers, and the Pistons slowly slid into the realm of Eastern Conference irrelevance. Even with Blake improving and expanding his game beyond the three-point line, it wasn't enough. He couldn't carry the Pistons by himself. With the NBA put on pause in March, brought back to life in July with a handful of teams, everyone forgot about the Pistons as they weren't invited to the restart. And everyone forgot about the all-star Blake Griffin. Though he can muscle his way under the basket for the ball, he has been having trouble muscling his way through the stars of the East for attention. Being the lone star on a small market team in the Midwest doesn't do so much to implant you into the collective cerebrum of the country. But talented players like Blake don't stay in the shadows for long. He'll step into the light once again. RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is that player that you forgot about. Coming into the NBA in a talented rookie class, Barrett was one of the top prospects. Many people saw what he did at Duke, and were excited to see what he would bring to the NBA. And not to say he didn't bring some heat to the NBA. It wasn't fire, but it was flame adjacent. Barrett was put in a bad situation. Drafted by the discombobulated New York Knicks, replete with power forwards and young, inexperienced players, Barrett still managed to average 14.3 points in his rookie campaign. The problem? For one, the Knicks. They have had trouble putting together a cohesive roster lately, and if you are competing for the playoffs, then you aren't really competing for people's attention. And Barrett came into the NBA with fellow Duke alum Zion Williamson, who didn't even play half of the season, and still was front page news once a week. Zion is of course an incredible talent. His New Orleans Pelicans were a bit more relevant than the Knicks and actually competed for a playoff spot. Then there was the sensational Ja Morant, who almost brought his Memphis Grizzlies into a playoff spot and was splashing onto the scene with dazzling dunks and explosive energy. With all the conversations of rookie play being Zion this and Ja Morant that, Barrett was all but forgotten. And without any extra camera time in the NBA bubble during the restart, you forgot that you forgot him. Let's hope that the Knicks can bring in some help and assist you in remembering to remember him next year. Final thoughts. Thanks for watching this UpNext Sports video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And feel free to leave us comments. Let us know if we forgot about players that we forgot about. But don't forget to join us on the next video for some more hooping hot topics.